So I'm very impressed with the ability that conservatives have had with the Target boycott. If it is a boycott, if it's not just the stocks, it's I mean they're losing money in the market, which is attributed to the Bud Light effect, and that effect is that people get scared of a boycott, and so they pull their money out. And then there's other people that are like, well, I don't want to hold because then I'm left with the bag. And so it's basically just a run on, instead of a bank, it's a run on the company that's pushing the LGBTQ agenda on children. And Target is doing that twofold. They're doing it with the swimsuits that you all know about. But if you don't, so what happened is they're having men's onesies with like a bulge, even though it looks like a woman's outfit. So it's like a woman's swimming suit, a woman's onesie with a bulge area for like, extra package. And they're also having tuck underwear. So basically where children are tucking themselves in and very likely to do damage to their sexual organs, which is completely messed up. So they're doing that, but they're also promoting, let me check here. It's $2.1 million to Glisten, which is a company or organization for LGBTQ youth. And they specifically want K through 12 education. K through 12. So kindergartners, they want to be educated on LGBTQ things. And it says here that they, well, let me find it, but they support an inclusive LGBTQ education. So they want a right and a safe space. So they want the right and safe space for an LGBTQ inclusive kindergarten education and first grade and second grade and third grade. So that's the company here. Okay. They want books. So Target is directly donating to these people, and they're promoting these satanic clothing designers that are trying to give this stuff to children. And I just think it's not normal. And I think that there is value in the word normal. And I want to look at that for a second. So conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. And that used to be something that we kind of strived for. We used to strive to have a normal life, or, if you were a kid in elementary school and you had a lisp, you tried to get rid of that because you wanted to be normal. But now these things are celebrated. And I think that it does a lot of unhealthy things, because when people tell you that they like being the way that they are instead of improving themselves, then dark things happen. And let's go to Canada, and you see that the medical assistance in dying is up 50%, I think, this year. But this only has 21. It doesn't have 22 or 23 in it. And it's something like, let's see if I can find it here, but 3.3% of all deaths in Canada are from medical assistance in death, which is basically medical assisted suicide. So if your grandma came to you and said, take me out back and shoot me, you would be appalled, because that's not normal. But all of a sudden, because the medical assistance is there, that it's normal and that's okay. And that when somebody is suicidal, we're just like, okay, we'll help you. It's different than shooting them with a gun. But what is the difference? That they get an injection that stops their oxygen assimilation into their blood, or it's like they you either shoot their heart and then they don't get oxygen in their blood, or you give them an injection and they don't get oxygen in their blood. So I don't understand what the difference is. The difference is that one is seen to be normal because people can sit down and be like, oh, I want to die, I want to, all these terrible things, and then you can believe them, you can believe their truth. And I think that that's wrong. I think that there is value in pursuing normalcy. I'm reading a book from, let me check here, 1937. And this guy, he raised his kid, I think, in the early 20s. And his kid was deaf. And he did everything in his power to train his kid to be normal. And I think that that's a really interesting thing to strive for. When his kid had a physical deformation that he couldn't hear. He did everything in his power to teach his kid how to be normal. His kid went on to be a very successful businessman and made millions of dollars, which back in the day was, worth at least $10 million per every $1 million. I don't know what the inflation is for the 70s, or for the 40s and 50s, but I know that since the 80s, there's been something like a 50% inflation rate since the last 2 years. Has been another 10%. So it was 40% inflation. So it's probably 50% inflation now. And that's just over 50 years. So I'm sorry, that's over less than 50 years. So inflation is a serious deal. And this kid made a lot of money being deaf. And he sold insurance, I think. Life insurance. I can't remember. But it's important to be normal because that teaches you how to be productive. And another thing is being normal helps you to be an attractive individual. Being less than self-absorbed helps you to attract a worthy mate. And 50% of adults today are married. And so, again, I think it's really interesting to look at what happened ever since we started having pride, which is, antithetical to the Christian religion and probably a few others. But it's interesting to me to see all these things decay in society. And a lot of it, I think you can attribute to people celebrating their quirks instead of saying, I want to be more productive. I want to be more efficient. I want to improve. Now when you're addicted to pornography, that's just your sexual orientation. I identify as a sexual deviant who requires pornography to a climax. And that's not normal. Okay. And that's the right way to say it. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And I think it's important to encourage people to be normal and to be healthy. Anyways, that's the end of my kind of tangent on the Target thing. They're promoting stuff for kids. They're promoting sexual education with the word glisten, an organization called Glisten, which is a sexually, it has sexual references. The definition of glisten is something wet or greasy. So I think that it's time to hit Target pretty hard and get this nasty, disgusting filth away from our children, and stop teaching them how to hurt themselves and teach them how to be normal so that they can have a healthy, productive, successful life and go get married and make other healthy, successful, productive children so that our species can go on and grow and be productive and normal. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.